Welcome to the Family Banking Blueprint podcast. This show is for women who put family first, value their faith, and work hard, yet they were never shown how to multiply their money without sacrificing their lives. This isn't about the hustle or the get rich quick. It's about opportunity, decisions, and building a family bank that buys you time, flexibility, options, and family adventures. Here we talk about real estate, passive income, and the beliefs that come even before the first investment. Let's talk about what that looks like.
Hi there. Hey, I am excited to share with you a conversation that I am honored to have this week with some big business owners. Some who have succeeded at super high levels, have climbed the ladder, own the dealership, own the company, and yet they haven't been taught about creating passive income. So I've been working on a conversation that I want to have with them. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to share with you guys. So bear with me because today we're going to talk about from grind to legacy, because I probably don't need to teach you how to grind harder, how to work faster, how to build stronger, how to generate the revenue. You know how to build the business. That's not the piece that you need from me. What you need from me is to teach you how to make your money make money. So let's talk about the grit that it takes, because it takes grit both in building the business, but also in building the wealth and in building the legacy, because nobody that has built a big business got there from not knowing how to work. They didn't get there from, being weak or, being scared. They got there because they built big businesses. They created income. They succeeded through others. But the grind that gets you there is not necessarily the strategy that makes you free. It might generate the income, which is just the beginning foundation of creating the next step, which is the freedom. So you're through the hard part of figuring out the grind, and now it's time to build the legacy. So most grinders plateau because they use willpower where there's actually need for a system. The building of the foundation is necessary, the building of the income, but it's not the ceiling. You're not there yet. So let's talk about built on legacy. I know you guys have heard a couple of different stories. You've heard me talk about my grandmother. You haven't probably heard me mention my father-in-law. I'll tell you, as I was growing up, this man, when I was 19 years old, I remember meeting him and thinking, what an amazing human, what an awesome man. He worked hard, he saved, he put his money in the stock market, he did all kinds of things for his kids. He was honestly the man that you look up to and you think, wow, successful business icon in the community, work ethic like you've never seen before, just the awards, just really, really a solid man who has built an amazing life. Nice home, nice cars, all the things, right? Has his retirement set up, really planned and thought that through. And then you have my grandmother, who really worked in an industry where nobody was going to give her a retirement. Nobody was going to, there was no setting her up for the future. It was part of the entrepreneur game, right? Like you're on your own. You build it, you set it up. And a lot of you guys may have started in areas and industries where you had somebody contributing to your retirement. In the real estate world, that's really not a thing. And so we just had to pave the way and figure it out for ourselves. And you might be in the same scenario. But here's this woman who built a successful business, ran a brokerage, helped a lot of people, earned community respect. She was the first CCIM, so the first commercial realtor, female realtor that excelled and got all these designations and was really well respected in all of Arizona. Like, the woman kicked some serious butt. She traveled the world, took me everywhere. And she made millionaires of all of her kids. And I look at them and I'm like, gosh, they both won at such a high level and they both really built incredible lives. There was just one little difference between the two of them. My father-in-law had this plan that he was going to save up all his money, put it in the stock market. He was going to follow the 4% rule and he was going to live off the money in the stock market later. And he worked, put away saved, live frugal, all the things. And right at retirement, he said, you know what? I'm turning the keys in on the business. The kids ended up growing up and not wanting to take over the business. And, he just said, I'm turning the keys in. My wife and I are going to travel. We're going to have a good life. And, I'm done. I don't have anybody to really run the business. And just weeks after he retired, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And his goal and his uh, dream was to travel the world with his wife, to do a lot of camping trips, he just adores the crap out of her. And they have a wonderful marriage, which is another reason that I just thought, wow, what a man. And his goal was to spend lots of time with his kids and to spend lots of time with his wife and just to live out the rest of his life just on the beach in California, camping in the woods, all of those things. And life shifted because all of a sudden he wasn't looking at a life where he could do those things anymore. Instead, he was looking at a life of dealing with Parkinson's and kind of being in a science experiment and trying to figure things out. And everything was more expensive than he had planned. And it just was a lot different than what he had anticipated. And he probably didn't take as many trips as he'd like to have taken during his lifetime with his kids. He probably didn't do as much fun things, though he did live and has lived and is living an incredible life. But there was probably some things that he put off until he was older because he thought that someday I'll get to do that. Someday I'll have enough money. Someday I'll have the time freedom. My grandmother, on the other hand, built it a little differently. She early on recognized I need assets that pay me to live while I'm living, right? To experience adventure while I'm living. And so she did things a little bit differently. And instead of putting money in the stock market, as a matter of fact, I don't know that she has any money in the stock market. She's almost 100 years old. And she had all of her money in real estate assets and assets where they could be split apart and sold to make money. They could have tenants put into them that would live in them and pay their mortgages and make additional income, that she could travel off the income that they were creating, and she could bring her kids, that income would fund their weddings, fund their college, fund their future. And she just did it a little different. So I have been blessed to be able to compare and contrast these different lives and really dig into them. And it brought me to a conversation here today that made me just want to chat with you about what happens if you're not there. Many of you have built your businesses on the hard work that you have done. And what happens if something happens to you and your families are left without you? Many of you have inherited family businesses and have scaled them, have made them even better. But the income stream that you have today flows through that business. And that business has your name on it. And if you're not there, does the business continue to grow the way you'd like to see it grow? You have one business, you're in one industry, and you're not diversified. There's only one you. If something were to happen to you, you're really exposed. How does that affect your family? What if AI comes into the auto industry? What if things like Carvana or, simplicity of systems make it harder for you to make a living? What if there's a health event? What if there is a downturn or COVID? Do you have any other streams of income that will generate you income while you sleep, that will pay your bills even when you're not there? Do you have any security through passive income? Because the fix is outside of the dealership. The dealership is the amazing business that generates you the income, but now the game has changed a little bit. And we're going to talk about creating passive income that doesn't depend on you. I want to show you a picture. And for those of you online on the podcast, you can't see it, but it's a picture of my father and the first meal that he had after he had a head injury. And I spent almost 2 years basically out of work, just helping him to learn to walk again, helping him to learn to talk again. This was the first meal he had that wasn't through a tube, and he was so excited. And if you can just picture, I remember when that emergency call came in thinking, my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to run a business? That was my first thought. But my second thought was, it's okay, Kristen. It doesn't matter. You have passive income. You built it this way so that you would have the freedom to take care of whatever situation might arise. And so I did get the opportunity to spend 2 years with him building a relationship tighter than we ever had, helping him through a time when nobody else had the freedom to help him because they didn't have income coming in while they were sleeping, while they were at the hospital, things like that. And so it isn't just about your retirement, it's about reclaiming your time and also claiming your ability to serve and be there for others when they need you. The game changed, right? We were taught it was an income game. We were taught put our money in the market and build equity, and that your wealth was based on your net worth. But here's the thing, you cannot spend your net worth. You can spend cash flow. So we're going to change this game and we're going to think about it a little different. We're going to think about it from a cash flow perspective and generating multiple streams of income, because freedom comes when your cash flow is diversified and you have multiple streams of income coming in. You make your money work for you so that you can enjoy the freedom now. You don't have to wait till later. You don't have to wait until retirement and then have a health issue and not be able to enjoy the life that you had worked so hard to build and the retirement that you had worked so hard to fund. And you do that because it's not about the income earned, it's about the income system that works when you don't. So it's all about creating a system where your money works for you and it's not contingent on you showing up. So first off, just like you did in this industry, you be the best in your niche. You guys are already here because of that. You raise your rate and you earn money through the industry that you're already in. You've done that. You've added and stacked the revenue within the dealerships. And you've, the back end that makes money. You've got, probably referral leads that make money, all these different ways within the dealership or within your current business that you can make money. So you don't have to start over. You're just building a side flow of income that is generated by your money making money. No more needing you. Financial leverage multiplies everything. When you have financial leverage and you take that money and you put it in a system that makes it work for you, you now get to hire talent because you can afford it. You now get to bless and provide people opportunities. You now get to buy opportunities when others can't. Having time and money buys you so much freedom. I think to times where other people would buy the new thing when it came out and they'd finance it. And then when oftentimes it was vehicles, ironically, they'd spend a bunch of money on vehicles and they would buy them because they were beautiful and they were cool and they were the new thing out. And they were exciting. And then when they couldn't make the payment anymore, because I had money making money while I slept, they would call and they'd say, "Hey, Kristen, I'm going to lose this vehicle, or I need to sell this vehicle because of a health emergency. Do you know anybody who wants it?" And I would have the opportunity to pick up some of the neatest things at the cheapest prices because I had this little bundle of money that was working for me on the side. So you can find opportunities to help people when they're in situations where they need you. You can find ways to build. And my big thing is building a family bank, building a system that gives you money perpetually so that you have time freedom, you can be available, you can be present. Well, you're trying to be present at the wedding, at the vacation. I don't know how many times as a realtor we would go on vacation and I'd have to bring a computer and edit listings or take phone calls while I was somewhere else. And it's just like, that's not true freedom. That might be flexibility in your job, but that's not freedom. So you're not in the business. The business generates the income that buys the assets that fund the system. So your dealership generates the income that funds the systems. The systems fund the lifestyle, the bucket list adventures, and the legacy. So I'll tell you about some bucket list adventures that I had along the way. But first, let's talk a little bit about lifestyle creep, because generally, you've gotten to a great place, you make a good amount of money, but you earn more and you spend more. The cars get newer, the house gets bigger, the watches get heavier, and somehow you're always broke on paper. There's never extra money to put aside to buy assets that generate income. And it's a trap because buying things that look like wealth but consume the capital that actually creates it is a trick. The shift is you buy the assets first and the lifestyle with the income generated from the assets. So let your income fund the investments that fund your life. I said in this slide deck, I said your ego spending is emotional, but wealth building is intentional. It's so easy to see something fun and want to go buy it. And I'll tell you a couple of little stories along the way. But first, what we want to do is we want to win with our money. We win with our money. That's your active income. You're already winning in the dealership. Your skills, your business, you're maximizing your income and your profitability in that business relentlessly. That's your mission. But now you shift to your money making money. So your money then goes to buying income generating assets that replace your living expenses. And then after that benchmark has been met, they start to replace your lifestyle. So let me give you an example. If you spend $5,000 a month, maybe you spend $10,000 a month, living the lifestyle that you create, if you go through and you identify your priority expenses, your power, your mortgage, the things that you actually have to spend money on, and you identify that number, your first goal is to buy assets that will replace that number. So at the end of the day, if you got sick or couldn't work, your assets could pay those bills and you don't have to worry about rushing back to work or getting back to the hustle. After that number is met, you're going to start working towards your lifestyle. So, hey, next year I want a new car. Hey, I want to go to this vacation. Hey, I want this racehorse I want to purchase. Those are the next numbers that you start climbing that cash flow to start to replace your earned income with passive income that can buy you your lifestyle. And then as things are growing and things are looking great and you still have your business and you have extra income. So after it's replaced your main expenses, then you can start to think about, who do I want to give to? Who do I want to bless? What adventures do I want to go on? What kind of lifestyle needs do I have? What things do I want to acquire in the future? And what family milestones do we have coming up? Do we have kids going to college? Do we have um babies on the way? Do we have weddings to help fund those type of things? Down payments on houses, business startups. After you've replaced your needs, then you can start to acquire passive income that starts to fund those things. And that's when it gets super fun, because that's when you have this perpetual bank that you can start helping others with. Charity, things that impact and bless others, things that matter to your life. So the income from your business funds the assets fund the lifestyle. That's really the only blueprint that works. That's what my grandmother understood that my father-in-law didn't necessarily understand. He was working hard so that he could fund the stock market, fund the future, but he missed out on experiencing a lot in the present. If today's episode helped you to think differently about money, read the Family Banking Blueprint. It'll walk you through the exact framework that we use to build your family's wealth. And remember, faith first, family always, and don't forget to get some assets. And when you look at an asset like real estate, it changes everything. Because right now, your dealership pays you. That's your earned income. Real estate pays you while you're fishing in Montana. It pays you while you're watching your kid's baseball game, while you're sleeping. And as a matter of fact, both your business and your real estate assets can pay you at the same time, which is when it gets really fun. You don't diversify just for security. You don't just put the money aside in different vehicles for security. You diversify to escape the rat race, to buy your time and to buy the experiences with those you love. And the thing that's neat about real estate is you have that monthly cash flow. That's your rent. That's your mailbox money. Even when you're not there, it's showing up. When you're on the beach, you got your mailbox money coming in. Appreciation, the value of that asset also goes up. So many assets depreciate. I won't even call them assets. So many things that we purchase depreciate, but not in real estate. In real estate, historically, your net worth climbs and your tenant is paying for it. And you get that appreciation of that real estate going up in value while you're also getting the cash flow from it, as well as the tax advantages. You can lower your taxable income with real estate. And the other thing that's cool about real estate is the income that comes from it is taxed at a lower rate than the income that comes from your active income and your dealership ownership. So it's leverage. Leverage in real estate comes by way of, and you guys do this in the dealership world, you finance, right? You control $1 million worth of assets, but you only put 200,000 of your own money in. You control a lot of money and assets, but you didn't have to put that much down. So no other investment offers this. If you buy real estate, then you can buy real estate that buys cars. I'm going to tell you a little story about our host here. He called me one day and we were talking about investing, and he said to me, "Oh, I just bought this van. I have 9 kids and it's really cool and we can go places." And I said, "Oh, what'd you pay for that?" And he told me what he put down, and I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but I remember telling him, if you took that same amount of money and you put it down on the condo that I bought, that condo would you buy you this van and the next van. And when all of your kids are old enough to drive, it would buy each one of them a car, and it would, continue to fund life even well after this car is dead. But because of the way you deployed your money, you only bought that car, and that car is going to depreciate. It's not going to appreciate, and it's not going to cash flow for you. So when I said that to him, his eyes lit up and he was like, "Why didn't you tell me this?" And so I tell you guys because it's just a matter of changing the way that you're thinking. It's just a matter of changing thinking. It's not a matter of needing more money. So, boring properties that build empires. Let me tell you about the boring properties. I'll never forget a mentor of mine put me in a room and he said, "Tell these multimillionaires what you did." And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, "Ben, I spent $3,000. Ben, I spent $15,000. Like, none of it was amazingly cool. First, I bought the $3,000 one. I just bought a little single wide. It was 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I had old carpet, yucky counters, like nothing really special, but it provided affordable housing. And because affordable housing matters, they never missed a rent payment. They always were grateful to have a landlord that took care of them and grateful for a place that they could afford. And it blessed me to help provide a roof over the house or over the heads of those families. Multifamily. I have some multifamily. And what's really neat about a multifamily asset is, for instance, I've got a duplex where the mortgage on it is $1,900 a month and the income from it is $4,000 a month. So essentially, the neighbor, one of them pays the mortgage, the other one is passive income to me, 2 grand a month in income to me. And so what's cool about that is if one moves out, I still have the income of the other one to keep paying the mortgage. It never comes out of my pocket. And meanwhile, I've got the appreciation of the asset. It's just going up in value. Rents are getting higher, cash flow is getting better. And I have the tax advantages of owning it. A mobile home park. We have a mobile home park. And you would have asked me years ago if I would ever have the ability to buy a mobile home park. I would tell you, where in the world would I ever find the money to buy a mobile home park? But when you start focusing on these assets that generate income and you start speaking your goals out into the world and the relationships that you have, you'll find these opportunities pop up all the time. And so my active income from running a real estate team had afforded me to put some money aside. And I was looking for my next investment and I wanted that to be a mobile home park. And I spoke that out into the world. And one of my agents called one day and she said, "Hey, did you see this lady posted on Facebook and has a mobile home park in Prescott she wants to sell?" And like, those never come up. Talk about a God thing. So I thought to myself, well, I don't know anything about the value of mobile home park. I don't know anything about buying a mobile home park. Like, all I have is a little bit of down payment. Probably what she makes from the mobile home park far exceeds what I could pay her. What in the world would she want that from? Like, what could I offer her? So I called her and I said, "Hey, ma'am, I saw your message online and I'm an agent in town and I just wanted to hear about what your plan is and what you're trying to accomplish." And she said, "Well, I really don't want to get rid of the place. I love the passive income. However, I've got a mom that needs some money to move into assisted living and she's got some health care issues." And I was like, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I've got a little money and I could give you that. And then I could help you to keep the passive income because I'll take over the mobile home park. I'll bring in all the income. You can just be the bank and I'll make payments to you. So you'll have both a chunk of money and the passive income from the park still." And she thought about it and she called me back and she's like, "I like that. Let's do that." So we gave her $100,000 down. This mobile home park, I have owned it for probably it paid itself off within a few years. I have owned it for probably 6 or 7 years now. And that mobile home park, we're working on upgrading a few homes in there. At its peak, currently it brings in about $7,000 a month. Um, in the future, when we replace a couple of those houses in there, which they're really cheap, that thing will bring roughly $14,000, $15,000 a month for the rest of my life. But the cool part is that income then can go to my children and to their children and to their children, and they never have to sell the asset. It becomes a perpetual bank in an account where they can borrow when their kids get married, when their kids buy vehicles, if they have health problems. All of it is set up in a perpetual bank system so that it can provide for generations to come without ever having to be sold. Unlike stocks, if you want money from your stocks and you need it immediately, you've got to liquidate those assets in order to pull that money out. And then it's not making money for you anymore. This mobile home park will forever take care of my family and their family and their family. And what a blessing. The thing that I'm on to now, which is kind of fun, is, you manage a bunch of rentals. I manage 21 tenants myself, as well as run other businesses. And yeah, it's not horrible. Honestly, there's a lot worse things. But there are moments when I'm like, oh, I don't want any more Airbnb comments about how I didn't leave the right frying pan for them to cook their meal in, or things like that. Or, the Airbnbs are really they can be special. But anyway, so horse boarding. We have been working on a project where we are going to be building a barn so that we can house just 8 horses, not a ton. We love horses. We're a rodeo family. We go and we play. It's part of our experience. We want to take the horses and everything we do as a write-off. If you know horses and rodeo, you know it is not a cheap sport. So finding a way to write it off is important. And just building out this horse boarding facility so that we can have more horses, house horses, bring people out to our place where they can ride the state land and enjoy. We have little micro mini Highland cows, and just provide them a space where they can retreat and enjoy. And horses bring in our area, $600 a month per stall, and are really, really pretty passive, bringing in another $5,000 a month. So then you've got roughly $20,000 a month coming from only 2 investments. That's not including the multifamily. That's not including the Airbnbs. All of a sudden, life gets really fun because you show up to work because you want to, not because you have to. So the tenant buys the house for you. You put 25% down generally. The bank gives you 75% of that income, and the tenant pays the mortgage every month. They pay it off. I didn't pay that mobile home park off. They did. You don't need to be rich to get started. You need 25%. And oftentimes you don't even need that much. So the tenant pays the mortgage, the cash flow hits your account, the property appreciates, the income is taxed at a lower rate, and you sleep while you're generating income. So your goal is to convert all of your earned income to passive income, or at least match or supersede your earned income with passive income. So the dealership is your income now, your commissions, your time, your real estate. You get money from the rent, the appreciation, the equity that it builds, the tax benefits that you save. And pretty soon you have this passive income that supersedes your earned income. And then you get to go to work because you want to. And I tell people all the time, you can have anything you want in life if you can make it pay for itself. I wanted, at one point in my life, a beachfront condo. So this is a picture of the London Bridge and of the condo complex that we've got a little condo in. It's a cool little place. It's not far from us. It's our quick trip to the beach. This is the condo that I was telling Glenn about, that I said, hey, if you would have put that same money that you bought that car with into this condo would have bought that car for you, and you would have this condo to come travel to when you come out to Arizona, and you could enjoy the beach. And it's just a matter of thinking differently. Same number of dollars, completely different asset. So right now you're working and here's your earned income, and you're going to go create some passive income. And then pretty soon you're going to earn more and you're going to create some passive income. And pretty soon you're going to have this crossover where all of a sudden your passive income exceeds your earned income or exceeds your living expenses. And then you've got this freedom where you get to show up because you want to. When passive income exceeds your earned income, work becomes a choice and not a requirement. So what's the dealership without you? Monday morning becomes your choice. There's no more ceiling to what you can earn. It's not there's no ceiling. Your income is not capped by what that dealership can produce or how many hours you could work. It's capped by how many assets you can buy or how much cash flow is produced by those assets. You don't have these bad days of, oh my gosh, it's a slower month, and what if the dealership doesn't make the money I want? You also have this, like, it's okay, like I did with my dad. It's okay because we'll be fine. We've got this other source of income. You don't get rid of the dealership. You match the dealership. The business then serves you and not the other way around. Earned income becomes extra, and you fuel, and it becomes fuel for your next acquisition, your next purchase, so that you can just keep adding to that bank. The life you meant to build becomes a thing. You start to take adventures, the hunting trip in Colorado, fishing in Alaska, taking the road trip to the beach. not because you finally earned it, but because your assets earn it for you. Your presence, you have time because you don't have to be at the office all night solving the problem. You can hire the person who does that and bless them with a job. Every game, every recital, every dinner that matters, you can show up and be fully present, not exhausted, not calculating if you could afford to be away. And then the stories you tell are the ones that your kids remember. They're the trips that my grandmother took me on to Egypt. Like, when in the world would I ever be able to go to Egypt and see the pyramids, the Eiffel Tower in Paris? This is not a woman who made a ton of income. She just had a lot of passive income because she put the money that she made into the assets so that she could multiply her income. This is not retirement. This is life by design, funded by your assets and not your attendance. Then you get to teach them the blueprint. You get to show them the math. You get to give them a role. I'll never forget, my grandma had this game plan. Hey, each kid, and she did this with her children, she was going to put money down on a rental, and she was going to teach them to manage the rental so they could learn how to build passive income themselves. And ownership changes the behavior. All of a sudden, they have a job to do and they learn the lesson that you're trying to teach them. You can teach them to deploy their money and not just spend it, and to build that family portfolio where forever that money is coming into that banking system, and they could buy the cars, take the trips, do the things, because that bank is constantly funding itself. Most successful business owners leave money. The good ones leave knowledge and skill. The best ones leave a system that generates money, not one that runs out, one that doesn't. So passive income taught correctly becomes freedom for every generation. And you're just seed funding their futures. Wealth that outlives you, the coolest thing about creating this family bank is that it outlives you. When you build a passive money machine, your impact stops being about you and it starts being about everyone connected to you and everyone they touch after you're gone. Your family, you can start taking those trips, the memories, creating the time, the kind of presence that maybe your parents couldn't give to you because they were so busy hustling. You get to create opportunities for your people, opportunities for them to build passive income within your business. I created a fund for my agents a few years back where every transaction that they did through these other sources of income and businesses that we owned, for every deal that they did through that, I would give them a percentage of the passive income that came from those businesses that then I purchased properties with. So they would get a percentage of that rental income based on their participation in helping our team be successful. Your community, right? Your churches, your missions, the single mother who needs a house. This becomes the things that you get to uh, participate in and bless and provide opportunity for. And your legacy becomes a family bank that runs for 100 plus years, keeps going. Your grandkids who've never even met you will be blessed by the things that you've done and the system that you've built. You were given much and you are required to steward much. So the blessing is not the wealth. It's the wealth that lets you do things for the people that you love. Your income funds your assets fund your life. It's just a different way of thinking. If you want to find out more about this, you can certainly grab a copy of the Family Banking Blueprint. It is a year out today or this week, and it's just got some great stories about some of the ways that we built passive income and created a family bank such that it could bless others. And my goodness, if I could just tell you the stories of the many, many people that have been blessed from one woman and the way that she thought about money. And I hope it blesses you too. Take care and have a wonderful evening. All right, friends, that's it for today. But remember, faith first, family always, and don't forget to get some assets. I'll see you next time.